Everyone said he was the dream husband. He remembered anniversaries, brought flowers home just because, and posted the sweetest captions under every family photo. On the outside, he was everything a woman could ask for. But behind the curated photos and smiling selfies, there was something darker. Something his wife, Emma, would only discover by accident. A single message. Just one sentence. Sent to the wrong person. It shattered years of trust and exposed a double life she never imagined the man she loved could live. This isn't just a story about betrayal. It's about how easy it is to fake a perfect life, and how even the people closest to you can wear the most convincing masks. His name was David. To the outside world, he was a picture of success. A charming tech entrepreneur, a loving husband, a present father. The kind of man people pointed to and said, "Now that's how it should be done." On Instagram, he shared everything: morning walks with his daughter, surprise dinner dates with his wife, motivational quotes about loyalty and love. Strangers admired him. Friends envied him. His wife, Emma, adored him. He never missed a birthday, never raised his voice, always made time for family. Even when his business demanded more, Emma would often say, "I feel lucky every day, like I married my best friend." Their life looked perfect. But if you stared long enough, you might notice something strange. A pattern in his photos. Always too polished. Smiles too exact. Captions that felt more rehearsed than real. But no one questioned it. Because when a man shows you the version you want to believe in, it's easier to fall in love with the illusion. It was a quiet Tuesday afternoon. Emma was folding laundry, half watching her favorite cooking show, when her phone buzzed. It was a message from David. Or, at least, she thought it was meant for her. It read, "Last night was unforgettable. I can still smell your perfume on my shirt." At first, she smiled, thinking it was a sweet inside joke. But within seconds, that smile began to fade. The words didn't match. They weren't theirs. Emma didn't wear perfume. David always joked he liked her natural scent. They hadn't been intimate in over a week, and certainly not last night. He had told her he was working late, finishing up a proposal. Her hands trembled slightly. She didn't reply. She read the message again, then again. Each time, the words sank deeper, like tiny needles piercing through the calm fabric of her life. She didn't confront him. Not yet. Emma had always believed in giving people the benefit of the doubt. But this time, her gut whispered something different. So instead of asking questions, she started watching. Emma didn't respond to the message. She archived it instead, placed it in a folder labeled only with a single dot, invisible to anyone but her. That night, David came home with his usual smile. He kissed her cheek, asked about her day, complimented the dinner she made. Everything was normal, almost too normal. He didn't mention the message. Maybe he thought she hadn't seen it. Maybe he didn't even realize he sent it. Either way, Emma played along, calm, warm, unreadable. But inside, something had shifted. Trust doesn't disappear all at once. It dissolves. Slow, like sugar in cold water. So Emma began observing. Quietly, she noted what time he left for work, what time he got home. She paid attention to the way he spoke about his assistant, Chloe. Chloe had been working with David for over a year. Emma had met her once, briefly, at a company dinner. She remembered thinking Chloe was polite, reserved, maybe even shy. Now, that one memory replayed in her mind, over and over. The way Chloe had looked at David, not just admiration, something else, something unspoken. Emma didn't want to believe it, but belief wasn't her goal anymore. Truth was. She checked the shared calendar they used for family appointments and compared it to his location history. The numbers didn't match. Meetings that supposedly lasted hours were held blocks away from hotels she'd never noticed before. Emma didn't cry. Not yet. There would be time for that. But not now. Now was for gathering facts. Quietly, calmly, like a woman preparing for a storm she already knew was coming. It was late. David had already gone to bed, and the house was still, wrapped in the kind of silence that feels heavier than noise. Emma sat alone at the kitchen table, lit only by the glow of her laptop. She wasn't sure what she was looking for, but something, a quiet instinct, told her to check his cloud account. They had shared passwords. Nothing had ever been hidden between them. Or so she thought. She clicked through folders, work presentations, vacation photos, tax documents, all familiar. But then, she saw it. A folder tucked deep inside a subfolder labeled Drafts 2022. The kind of name no one would notice. Nothing about it stood out, except for the fact that it had been recently modified. She hesitated. Her finger hovered over the trackpad. She took a breath and clicked. Inside were dozens of files. At first, she couldn't make sense of them. Receipts, PDFs, screenshots of hotel bookings, and then the photos. They weren't explicit, but they didn't need to be. David, smiling, laughing, leaning into Chloe at a candlelit table. Another photo, the two of them walking through an art exhibit, close, like they belonged together, like they had nothing to hide. Emma's eyes burned, but she didn't cry. Instead, she stared, not at the pictures, but at the man in them. How long had this version of him existed? Was it new? Or had it always been there, just out of view, waiting to be discovered? She downloaded the folder, backed it up on a drive, and closed the laptop. Not out of rage, not yet. This wasn't revenge. This was record-keeping. Because deep down, Emma already knew. Nothing he could say now would make this go away. Emma didn't scream. She didn't throw anything. She didn't wake him up in the middle of the night demanding an answer. Instead, she printed the photos. One by one, she laid them out on the dining table. Each image a different lie, a different version of the man she once thought she knew. Then, she found a small white box, one left over from a gift David had given her years ago. She gently placed the photos inside, arranging them carefully, like pieces of something sacred, or maybe something buried. No note, no confrontation, just the images, the truth, in full color. She wrapped the box with gold ribbon, the same kind they used every Christmas. In the morning, she placed it on David's desk in his home office, right next to the framed picture of their wedding day. He didn't notice it at first. Not until late afternoon. Emma heard his footsteps slow as he walked in. Then stop. Then silence. Moments passed, then minutes. Still no sound, no explanation. Just a quiet, heavy stillness hanging in the air between two people who once shared everything. He didn't come to her, didn't speak, and in that silence, Emma realized something deeper than betrayal had occurred. He wasn't sorry he did it. He was sorry he got caught. And that, perhaps, was the greater heartbreak. Emma didn't block him. She didn't delete their photos. She didn't change her relationship status or post anything angry. Instead, she opened her phone, went to her profile, and typed just one sentence. Never trust the man who smiles the most. No name, no tags, no accusations. Just a single line, raw, honest, unapologetically vague. Within minutes, comments began pouring in. Friends messaged her privately, some asking if she was okay, others simply sending hearts. A few, though, knew exactly what it meant. People started connecting the dots. They remembered the polished family photos, the romantic captions, the interviews where David praised Emma as his everything. And just like that, the illusion began to crack in public view. But Emma didn't say anything else. She didn't owe the world her pain. She didn't need to prove what had happened. She had already lived it. For her, that post wasn't revenge. It was release. 3 days after Emma's post, Chloe broke her silence. No one expected her to say anything. Most assumed she'd disappear, fade into the shadows, like these stories often go. But she didn't. She posted a video. Just her. No filters, no music, no dramatic lighting. Just her sitting on a couch, holding her phone with shaking hands. "This isn't easy to say," she began, "but I'm tired of being called the villain in a story I didn't write alone." Chloe didn't deny the affair. She didn't try to justify it either. But she told her version of how it started. The blurred lines, the long nights at the office, the quiet moments that turned into something more. She admitted she fell for him, believed him when he said his marriage was over in all but name, believed him when he said Emma knew that it was complicated, that he needed time. "I was naive," she said softly. "But I wasn't the only one lying." Then she said something that no one expected. "I wasn't the first, and I don't think I was the last." With that, she ended the video. No Q&A, no second part, just silence. But her words echoed far beyond her screen, especially for Emma. They didn't yell. There were no slammed doors, no shattered glasses, no accusations hurled like knives. Instead, they sat across from each other in the living room, 2 cups of untouched tea between them, the air so still, it felt like the house itself was holding its breath. Emma spoke first. Her voice wasn't loud, it didn't need to be. "How long?" David looked down. His fingers tightened around the handle of his cup. "Over a year," he said. "But it wasn't what you think." She almost laughed. Not because it was funny, but because it was all so predictable. The script of a man caught, trying to soften the truth. "Don't tell me what I think," she said quietly. "You don't get to do that anymore." He apologized, again and again. Said he'd end it. Said he never stopped loving her. Said he made a mistake. But Emma didn't flinch, because mistakes are typos. Forgotten birthdays. Missed appointments. What David did was a choice. Repeated. Intentional. Hidden. "You chose her," she whispered, "even if you didn't say it out loud." David didn't argue, because he knew. She was right. The silence that followed wasn't awkward. It was final. The kind of silence that follows the last line of a book, when the story has been told, and there's nothing left to say. Emma didn't pack in a rush. There were no suitcases thrown open, no frantic gathering of things. It was quiet, thoughtful. She started with her son's books, then her favorite tea mugs, a photo album, the real one, not the curated feed, the one with messy hair and genuine smiles. She left the house the same way she had once entered, it, with grace. David watched her from the doorway. He didn't try to stop her, maybe because he knew better, or maybe because deep down he knew he already had. There was no big goodbye, no final dramatic kiss, just one look, long, steady, and filled with everything they no longer needed to say. Then she turned and walked away, not because she hated him, but because she finally chose herself. The house didn't feel like home anymore, and Emma had learned something most people spend years denying. You can love someone and still realize they are not where your story ends. The first morning in her new place felt strange. The bed was smaller, the windows faced the wrong direction. The silence was louder, not sad, but unfamiliar, like a room waiting to be lived in. Emma made coffee, not for anyone else, just for herself. She sat by the window, hair unbrushed, sweater oversized, and for the first time in weeks, she didn't check his page, or his messages, or the comments under her last post. She just existed, and it was enough. Healing doesn't look like victory. It looks like laundry done on time, like remembering to water the plants, like laughing, really laughing, at a joke no one else hears. Emma wasn't trying to be strong. She wasn't chasing revenge. She was simply choosing something softer: peace. She started journaling, walking, smiling at strangers, not because life was perfect again, but because she no longer needed it to be. She had learned to live inside the honest moments, the imperfect ones, the ones you don't post. David never thought she'd actually leave. Not really. He imagined distance. Silence maybe, but not absence. Not her shoes missing from the hallway. Not the soft humming gone from the kitchen. Not the bed feeling twice as big and twice as cold. At first, he told himself she'd come back. That she just needed space. That love like theirs doesn't just vanish. But as the days passed, the silence stopped feeling like punishment and started feeling like the consequence. The dishes sat in the sink longer. The house felt heavier. The notifications he used to wait for never came. He found himself scrolling back, through photos, old texts, voice notes he forgot she sent, things she once said that didn't seem important until now. "I just want to feel chosen," one message read. Simple, honest, missed. And that's when it hit him. He hadn't lost her the day she left. He lost her the day he made her question her own worth. And no apology, no grand gesture could unwrite that kind of pain. Emma never planned to tell her story. Not like this. She wasn't chasing sympathy. She didn't want to be known as the woman who was cheated on. That wasn't her identity. It was just something that happened to her. But one night, after putting her son to bed, she opened her laptop and wrote. No names, no drama, just truth. She shared how betrayal doesn't always arrive with loud fights or lipstick stains. Sometimes it slips in through a late-night meeting or a forgotten birthday or a text sent to the wrong person. She wrote about the silence, the slow unraveling, the decision to walk away, not because she didn't love him, but because she finally loved herself more. She clicked post and closed her computer. By morning, there were hundreds of comments, then thousands. Not all were kind, but many were. Women and men, writing from different corners of the world saying, "This is my story too. I just didn't have the words for it." Emma hadn't just shared pain. She had made space for others to share theirs. And in that space, something remarkable happened. She didn't feel alone anymore. Healing didn't come all at once. It didn't arrive in a perfect moment, wrapped in clarity and confidence. It came in pieces. Like the first time Emma laughed, really laughed, without thinking about who wasn't there to hear it. Or the afternoon she walked past their old cafe and didn't feel her chest tighten. It came when she stopped checking his profile, when she stopped needing to compare her piece to his posts. Healing looked like messy hair and yoga at sunrise, like taking herself out for dinner, no phone, no distraction, just her. It wasn't linear. Some days still hurt, some nights still echoed, but the difference was, she didn't fear the ache anymore. It had become part of her story. Not the headline, not the ending, just a chapter she no longer needed to reread. One morning, she woke up and realized she hadn't thought about him at all the day before, and that was her quiet victory. In the end, no one burned. There were no screaming matches in courtrooms, no public shaming, no dramatic revenge arcs. Just people, flawed, hurting, learning, trying to figure out what love meant when it no longer looked like the stories were told. David eventually moved on. Chloe disappeared from the internet. And Emma built a life that didn't need to be proven to anyone. She found peace not in forgetting what happened, but in forgiving herself for staying too long and for finally walking away. This wasn't a story with a hero and a villain. It was a story about choices, about consequences, about how sometimes the bravest thing you can do is let go, without needing to win. And maybe that's what healing really is. Not getting even, not proving you were right, just living, fully, honestly, and without apology. Emma doesn't need to tell this story again, but maybe someone needed to hear it.